Hyundai's N division has made a name for itself as an affordable performance brand. In the US, we first received the Veloster N back in 2019. Infinitely adjustable to suit the driver's desires, the Veloster was a quirky and fun hot hatch that set the benchmark for any future N models. The Elantra N sedan and Kona N small SUV raised the bar and solidified Hyundai's intentions in the performance realm. All of this has been backed up by consecutive wins in the TCR class of the IMSA Michelin Pilot Sport Challenge here in the US, along with several wins in endurance racing overseas, including a 1-2 finish in class at last year's Nürburgring 24 Hours. The company heralds 3 pillars of N performance to make a vehicle truly worthy of the N moniker: cornering rascal, racetrack capability, and everyday sports car. Hyundai's engineers made a number of changes to the standard Ioniq 5 to make the 5N a true N product. To make the 5N a cornering rascal, Hyundai added N torque distribution, N pedal, and N drift optimizer. To make the 5N racetrack capable, they created N battery preconditioning, N brake regen, N Grin Boost, and N race mode. And to meet the everyday sports car criteria, there is N e-shift and N active sound plus, at least on the technology front. Physically, there is an N-exclusive front bumper with an open grille, along with air curtains and active air flaps. The badges are blacked out all around, and a luminous orange stripe encircles the lower body. Wheel arches on the 5N are wider than the standard Ioniq 5 by roughly 2 inches. There's a bigger rear spoiler paired with an N-exclusive rear bumper and rear diffuser, all topped off with a high-mounted triangle-shaped rear stop lamp. Inside, you will be treated to a pair of 12.3-inch screens, new sport bucket seats, a unique steering wheel, and a center console that definitely comes in handy when at speed on track. It's padded on both sides to help brace yourself in high-speed maneuvers. Basically, the Ioniq 5N is longer, lower, and wider than a standard Ioniq 5, with a lot more power. We're talking 2 motors, 1 on each axle, with total system output of 601 horsepower and 545 pound-feet of torque. Hit the red N Grin Boost button, and that it bumps up power to 641 horsepower and 568 pound-feet of torque for a luscious 10 seconds at a time. Ultra-fast 800-volt charging means you can charge your 5N from 10 to 80% in as little as 18 minutes on a 350-kilowatt charger. Plug it in at a 50-kilowatt charger, and that same 10 to 80% will take about an hour and 10 minutes. Bring your 5N home and plug it into your 240 outlet, and you can expect an overnight 7 hours and 20 minutes for that same 10 to 80% charge. Overall range is estimated to be 220 miles, but that won't be on track. Here is a list of all the changes Hyundai did to create the Ioniq 5N, along with pricing. I recently had the opportunity to experience the new Ioniq 5N both on and off the track at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in California. There is so much to learn about this vehicle that I thought it might be good to talk to one of the experts. This is Jacken Yu, one of Hyundai's N brand management team.
Where do we start? We can go all day. It's a comprehensively different car from the Ioniq 5. Especially with regards to the improvements technologically. So if you look at the car from underneath, you'll find different battery pack, different motors, but not just that, even the suspension structure itself is bespoke for this car alone. But we needed those changes to make the car move in a way that car enthusiasts expect. So we started this car thinking how to make a electric car fun. So we started there, and then the project kind of snowballed with what kind of functions we need, whether we need sound, a gear shift, and that's how this car came to be. Our performance goal was not just to make a headline horsepower or 0 to 60 figure. Our real ultimate goal was to make a proper N car, and the 3 pillars underpin that. So corner rascal, racetrack capability, everyday sports car. These 3 performance parameters have to be met to create an N car, and that philosophy is hidden throughout the car. One of the things that were very important is racetrack endurance. So you go on track and you expect to do a certain amount of laps. But EVs are a bit more tricky to cool. So the car has a very extensive cooling system, hardware-wise, but also in terms of software. It allows you to set whether you're gonna do a hot lap or track day, and you can set the car accordingly to suit your intent on track. This is a very motorsports kind of philosophy. You know, like in Formula One, the car would definitely be faster on qualifying trim compared to the race. You have different priorities. Same thing here. You're allocating resources to go super fast on a very short amount of time and build up a lot of heat, or you can go to longer stints with a much lower battery temperature, but at a slightly slower pace, but not that much. We have all these functions here. So let me start with N torque distribution. So N torque distribution, you have to think of it differently from ICE cars, because ICE cars you have one power plant and you distribute power accordingly. But here we have two motors, front and rear. So if you move the slider here, that means you're actually getting less power. But depending on what you're trying to do, that might suit the situation you are on. If you're in a slippery place, you might want to have more power in the front, or if you want to go drifting, you want to go into the rear. And it has 11 settings for your choice. And pedal is something that is really unique, where we utilize the regen of the vehicle to make the car more nimble on track. So here we're using regen not for efficiency, we're using it to deliberately help you weight transfer to the front. So N-Race is an energy strategy setting. You can choose to put all the energy at once and go super fast, or you can conserve energy and increase your stint, just like race cars. Drift optimizer is obviously a drift setting you're familiar with, but what we do differently from other electric cars is so the easiest way to make a drift mode is just completely turn off the front motors and only use the rears. That way, that's the easiest way to have 100% power in the rear, right? But what happens is, because you lose the front motors, you actually have lower net power, which is less fun. So what the drift optimizer does is it knows where it is in the drift. So during drifting, it would have only the rear motors on, but when you straighten out, the front motors turn on, and you'll experience kind of like a slingshot effect. You finish the drift and you go like whoom. Here, and battery preconditioning. So like our smartphones and tablets, lithium-ion batteries have a optimum temperature where it's very good at extracting output. And so drag mode, for example, so this is the suitable battery temperature, and the battery temperature right now is here, so it's actually too cold. It would increase the battery temperature to suit here, and that would be the mode that would give out the most amount of power, but for a very short amount of time. Because if you build up heat all the way here, obviously the car has to cool down. But if you want to go on a track, what you do is you don't go into the track and go do a hot lap right away, right? You're gonna have to do 1 to maybe 3 practice laps. As you do your practice laps, the battery will slowly increase in temperature, and after 2, maybe 3 laps, the temperature will be right at the suitable range, and that's when the car is good to go, and also the driver is good to go. The car has so many different modes and settings, but the idea is to offer you N1 and N2 buttons, where you would choose a certain setting that you love, you would save it here, and when you get used to it, or you want to make small changes, you can save in your individual custom settings. Launch control is pretty explanatory. So any shift and N-Active Sound Plus is really what seems to be getting a lot of interest. So N-Active Sound Plus. So in order to make an electric car fun, we knew from the get-go that the car had to have some kind of sound. And obviously there are other manufacturers that do have sound, but what we wanted to do first is to offer a variety of sounds for the user. So at some moment you might be in the mood to have a electric for a ICE kind of sound. So this sound mimics the 4-cylinder 2-liter engines in the Elantra N over there. And Evolution is a sound we took directly from our own Vision Gran Turismo car inside the Gran Turismo game. And everybody at some point dreams about being a fighter pilot. So we thought, why not put, a fighter jet sound in a car? You can't hear it here, but when you're driving with the NE shift, you can hear the sonic boom as you go up the gears. That's pretty fun.
Oh, that's great.
Going back to NE shift. So NE shift was introduced using the idea that when we do high performance driving, when we go to a track, we go to a mountain road, every corner we go, we assign gears to that specific corner. So, as you drive, you think, this is a second gear corner, that's a third gear corner, and without looking at the speedometer, that's how we know how much braking we should do and how much speed we should carry into the corners. In an EV car, without sound, literally the only noise you hear is the wind noise, and that's not really an accurate way to judge how fast you're going. So that's why we reintroduced shifting in an EV car, and it works by cutting the power momentarily. So honestly, it's not the fastest way to go on a racing track, but on a regular road, it's something you can turn on every now and then. The idea sounds so artificial, but once you go on track and you focus on driving, then it comes out natural. The goal was to mimic how we drive the cars we usually loved, and then the next step really is to find and to evolve beyond that to make the driving experience unique for EVs. That is our end goal. So we mimic first and then go further. As engineers and marketers here at Hyundai, we don't see these cars completely replacing ICE sports cars that we loved in the past. We grew up with those cars throughout our whole lives, so there's always going to be an aspect where we continue to love those cars, but we think EVs can open a path for car enthusiast culture to thrive in the future, and it adds another layer of car culture. So it's the best analogy you can use is music. So electronic music is not here to replace rock music, hip-hop, or other genres. Those genres we will continue to love and enjoy. We expect for this idea to be carried over by other manufacturers as well. You see Dodge or other brands trying to attempt to try new things to excite car enthusiasts. Eventually we will find the right formula. Maybe we're still in the introductory phase, but we'll get there, and at that point there will be another area for us car enthusiasts to enjoy. So this is our first EV for now, but we are continually learning the response from the media, our customers, and we have a lot of ideas of what we want to pursue into the future. And as a car enthusiast myself, I think we have a lot more to expect in the future, rather than lamenting about the demise of ICEs. We'll get there. It's gonna be fun.
All right, here we are, Ioniq 5N. The 600 horsepower, 601 horsepower Ioniq 5 with the N Grin Boost overboost up to 641 horsepower. So I'm a huge fan of the Hyundai Ioniq 5. I think it's one of the best current representations of what an electric vehicle should be. It's a skateboard chassis, basically. So you got 2 axles with motors on them, and you've got battery in between there. And then you can design whatever you want on top of that chassis. And the Ioniq 5 doesn't look quite like a normal car. It does, but it's a little different. And I think it's incredibly well executed compared to a bunch of other EVs that are on the market that look just like regular cars in those manufacturers' lineups. So you got all kinds of space. It's just packaged so well. The question is, can all of these refinements and changes that Hyundai's done to the Ioniq 5 to make it an N, did those things actually translate to a still very usable car, but one with more power? Who doesn't like more power? So I'm in Eco mode right now. I got 3 different drive modes: Eco, Normal, and Sport. And the throttle is incredibly syrupy. I just feel like I'm stepping in a mud puddle of goo, and there's not huge response unless I really dig into the throttle. If I shift to normal, immediately the throttle jumps to life. And, oh yeah, that instant torque is there, which I love in any EV. And then in Sport, our gauges change a little bit, and it becomes even a little more exciting. Hyundai did a lot of things. Like, the suspension in here is completely different than a regular Ioniq 5. The steering rack is also completely different. And out here on the road in normal, it's responsive. If I'm in Sport, sharper yet. Oh, and of course you've got iPedal. So I'm at iPedal max right now, so I can do 1-pedal driving. Like, literally, I'm going down a hill, my foot is off the accelerator, complete stop. I love that in EVs. But we already know the Ioniq 5 is a nice vehicle. It's a really good EV. It's really well executed. The big concern is N. When you've got N torque distribution, you've got N pedal, N race, N drift optimizer. Then you've got battery preconditioning and all of these different things. There's a lot. It's a lot. So the question is this just an appliance? Or is there character? Is there soul? The fact that you can configure this car so many different ways means you can really custom tailor it to your driving style. So we're out here at Laguna Seca Raceway in California, and let's see what this thing is like on the track. We were afforded 3 different lapping sessions at Laguna Seca. These were lead-follow laps, and each session was meant to highlight different aspects of the Ioniq 5N's capabilities. However, all 3 sessions were in race mode, and the only real differences between each 3-lap session was if we wanted to shift on our own and to highlight the N Grin Boost, or NGB button, that provides the additional 40 horsepower for 10 seconds. I have never driven Laguna Seca's racetrack before, not even in a video game. I was excited to get out on this famous circuit to see what the 5N is really capable of. Here we go. Jennifer's first ever lap at Laguna Seca, the all-new Ioniq 5N. And of course I'm last in the line, so our pro driver is 4 cars in front of me. Boy, it feels heavy. Wow. So this is 4. Ah, the infamous corkscrew. My first time ever through the corkscrew. Woo! Damn. That's pretty cool. All right, so the steering is good, actually. The car just feels really freaking heavy. This second session was much like the first. The only big difference for me was that our pro driver told me that since I was in the last car of our convoy, I could quote-unquote choose my own adventure. We weren't here to set track records after all, but to learn about the 5N, which is really impressing me with its on-track capabilities. So apparently, I was in a pre-production car, and now I'm in a non-pre-production car. I'm an actual production car. All right, so this time we're driving with the N audio rolling, so we get some audio sounds. Simulates the sound of an 8-speed DCT. Oh, cripes. This one feels a lot different. Interruption in gears is quite hilarious. It actually cuts power momentarily. Way wide. Wow, the brake feels a lot heavier in this one. Woo! Down the corkscrew. Having the audible sound of the simulated engine revs sort of helps when navigating a track, just because the audio sensation is something we're used to when determining entry speeds, exit speeds, and so much more in a track environment. I will say it did help a little and provided an added layer of fun on the track. Hyundai's engineers did a great job of getting the exhaust overrun crackles and pops as well. So with our last soiree on the track, we were afforded the opportunity to try the N Grin Boost button. This little red button on the right side of the steering wheel, the same place it is in other N products, provides a boost in power of an additional 40 horses and 23 extra pound-feet of torque. However, N Grin Boost. Oh, conditions not met, it says. Conditions not met. What the heck? They won't let me do it. I spoke with June Park, Hyundai's vice president of N brand management, at dinner later that night, and he explained that there was something amiss with the Ioniq 5N I had on track. A software glitch that wouldn't allow the N Grin Boost button to work properly. It's good of the car to know that something wasn't right and an overboost might not have been the best course of action on track. But don't worry, I got to do it on public roads instead. And then, of course, is the N Grin Boost button, which goes from 600 horsepower to 601 horsepower up to 641 with a 10-second limit. Holy cannoli! Yeah, that works. As long as you have 30% charge in the battery, you can still use Grin Boost. And it takes about 10 or 15 seconds for it to regenerate itself before you can do it again. So let's go to the N mode here and torque distribution. Okay, I'm going to put all of that power in the back. And what's interesting is in the N torque distribution, you're not pulling power from the front and sending it to back. You're just eliminating power at the front. Or, alternatively, in the 11 different settings, you can put power in the front. So there's 2 motors, 1 on each axle, and when you move where the power is, it's literally just cutting power away from the axle. It's not taking that power and sending it all to the other one. Oh, you can definitely feel that power move to the back. That's pretty cool. I like that. So what if I move it all to the front? And gee, shockingly, it feels like a front-wheel drive car. So N pedal. It basically takes I pedal, which is the regenerative braking, and instead of full regen, it puts the weight over the front axle, like it shifts the weight balance. So when you take your foot off the accelerator, just a little turn, I'm just going to do this, you can actually feel the weight shift. That's crazy. Oh my gosh. That is so cool. The tech that is in this thing is just, it's insane. It's insane. All right, we're in N active sound ignition. This is the mimicked 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder with overrun. Gotta love those snaps, crackles, and pops. And there's a rev limiter. Artificial. All of it's artificial. The sound's artificial. There's 10 speakers. There's 8 speakers inside, and there's 2 outside that are making those sounds. That was ignition. Let's put an evolution, which is like Hyundai's car that's actually in Gran Turismo, the video game. That's a little crazy. All right, let's go supersonic. It's supposed to be like fighter jets. That's the supposed sonic boom. Oh, that's great. That's great. So Hyundai is going to offer over-the-air updates for the Ioniq 5 and the Ioniq 5N. And I'm told that there may be other sounds in the works, or that we should come up or that we should come up with some. So if you have any ideas for Hyundai for sounds for the Ioniq 5N, let us know. Just let us know. All right, so really long story because there's so much to take in. Relatively short. Ioniq 5N. It's cool. I dig it. I could see having fun with this. I'm looking forward to having a long-term loan for a week to see how I feel after that, because doing 9 laps at Laguna Seca and driving up and down some of their outside roads gives me a glimpse into what the future of N really is. This gives me hope. It's encouraging that an EV is this fun And some of it's silly things. Some of it's, you know, the different sounds you can play with, or the N pedal where you get that weight transfer over the front axle and turn in more, where you get the drift mode, which unfortunately we don't get to do today. That's why I need one. This is a really, really interesting vehicle. And kudos to Hyundai's development team, the N brand development team, for... Albert Biermann told me that this would change my mind about EVs, and he may be right. The Ioniq 5N is not the first electric car that felt like more than just an appliance. The Porsche Taycan holds that esteemed spot. But it is definitely an intriguing proposition. The fact that you can tailor the car in so many ways to suit whatever drive you might be taking on any given day is helpful. But I do wonder if over the long term it would feel gimmicky. Hyundai's representatives assured us that over-the-air updates will keep the Ioniq 5N fresh for its owners, and they will also be listening to consumer feedback for anything that might need to be addressed. What I can say is this is an EV that I could see myself potentially owning, at least for a while. This is a brave new world.